This thing didn't say anything. Yes, there it goes. Well, good morning, everybody. I know it's early, but we're anxious to get into the process again here. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. After a lovely month of holiday, well, Patricia did, and David kept the home fires burning, and indeed he did keep the home fires burning because New Zealand, and particularly our area, had their most miserable August I think that I can remember hearing about. Every day I talked to him on Skype because where I was we had magnificent internet connection. I got a report of rain, and evidently it rained every single day for 28 days. Anyway, that was the last I heard. And we're expecting more rain this week, and in fact today, but at the moment it is dry. 13 degrees, which I suppose is better than it has been. We are only expecting a high of 17, 3 knots from the north, so I guess that's why, well, 3 knots is not much, but the rain is coming. 9.2. It's actually flat at the moment. 98% cloud cover, and yes, we are expecting a lot of rain over the next few hours. So I haven't really talked to David this morning as to what it's like up there in the islands, but I'm looking over his shoulder at the satellite picture. It doesn't look too bad at all. Few people are on their move. Noticed when I was away that there were people moving west. Kuhela, good morning, Josh. He's nearing Havana Pass at New Caledonia. Lupan are there at Matuku down there in the Lao. Falanga later this week, evidently at Matuku. It is now 50% cloud cover, 21 degrees. Wow, that doesn't sound very warm at all. No wind, and 1013. Whistler are going from Nananui Cake to Denarau, Port Denarau. Just left a while ago. 10 knots from the east-southeast, 40% cloud cover. 1011.3, and a bit warmer up there, 24 degrees. So it's not exactly very hot. I'll tell you what, it was very hot where I was when I was in the Caucasus, Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. It was between 35 and 43, and I can assure you that having a moon boot on in those conditions was not the most comfortable, and certainly not to be recommended. I shall give you a bit of information about that trip and my trip up the Volga as the days go by. What else have we got? By way of proper news from around the world, the New Zealand America's boat was launched last week. It's their first one, which they will use in Sardinia next year. And the other boats have not yet been announced, but I presume they will be launched in the next few days. The big news from you people, though, there's 2 items of interest. The pumice, of course, which I'd have to say for the oldies out there that have been there and seen this, etc. It's probably nothing much of news because it's Graham, in fact, on Toranui, managed to find some articles from the 60s, wasn't it, when they were there, and we had the same sort of thing when we were there in the early 2000s, I think it was. But anyway, pumice is new to some people from these underwater volcanoes, and at the moment, Andiamo sent an email a couple of days ago. They were on their way from Savu Savu to Falanga, and they struck more pumice about 80 miles, I guess, from Falanga. So be aware if you're on the move that it is around, and you do need to be careful to not run engines and flush toilets and run water makers and stuff like that. But I'm sure you coped with that over the last month. But yes, if the reports keep coming through, we'll let you know, and I'm sure you folk that are on the SOPAC net will give the information as and when you see the pumice raft, as they're calling it. A more immediate information is the issue from Vanuatu government. Havana Harbour appears to be out of bounds for everybody at the moment. They are trying to control the spread of the coconut rhinoceros beetle. I've put this on our website, www.ghradio.co.nz. It's on the front page down in the news flash. This beetle, it's a nasty looking thing actually, but they're trying to keep it out of Efate, so they have eliminated boats going into Havana Harbour, and they have a recommendation that you do not use lights just for any of the little islands north of Havana there, because it does attract the beetle. You'll need to maybe even think of not putting an anchor light on, but certainly navigation lights you'll need on if you're on the move. But I can remember one time when we were up that way, we had an anchor light that was not the masthead one, it's the one at the back of the boat, and boy, were we swamped with bugs. And they actually came in our ocean spray filter things, screens that we have on all our hatches. They seem to just climb around it and drop on the bed, which wasn't very pleasant. But anyway, please adhere to that. They're pretty serious about the fact that they want to keep that bug beetle out of Efate. So if you're going to and you're moving around Vanuatu, that is actually a bit of a nuisance not being able to go in there. But anyway, that's the rule at the moment, and we'll let you know if anything changes. Moving across the Tasman now, we have a lot of fires, over 100 fires burning in rural New South Wales and Queensland. Drought and low humidity, high winds, all contributing to the spread. There's 400 firefighters, 30 aircraft, and so far 20 homes have been destroyed. So that's not too good. I'm just having a screen look through here to have a look at what's coming in on streaming for more up-to-date reports. Exocet strike. Whoops. Just trying to get rid of an error message. These people that want to sell me things. Where is it? 30% cloud cover. 22 degrees. Boy, it's not all that hot everywhere. 8 to 10 knots from the southeast, 1011, and that's Muscat Cove. Mayo, thank you, Ms. Luna. Light winds there, high thin cloud, and I'm just going to scroll down with my left hand. Mr. Troy, good morning to you, and Marina, Diego. And thank you to the others that have sent welcome back messages. I did make sure that we did get here this morning. Okay, what else is news? From over in America, Purdue Pharmacy. Now, these are the makers of OxyContin. They're expected to file for bankruptcy. This is over the very deadly overdose crisis in the USA. They are estimating that there's been 400,000 people lost their lives due to opioid overdosing in the last 20 years. The first federal trial over the opioid epidemic is due to start next month, and it's expected to be a very complex legal drama involving every state and hundreds of local governments. So that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know how it's going to affect the supply of OxyContin, but I presume Purdue will just carry on producing it for the rest of the world, but it's certainly going to be something that's going to lead to a lot of downstream activity. Of interest to me was Russia and the Ukraine have just had a very high-profile prisoner exchange. 35 from each country have been swapped. Now, the reason I was interested is because I have been over there, and I had to walk the border between, in my case, Georgia and Azerbaijan, and I couldn't believe how long it was. It was an incredibly long border. We had to get off the bus thing that we were on in Georgia and get a new bus on the other side. There's reasons for that which I can explain. but the border was at least 600 metres long. You went you walked, I might add, with your moon boot and bag, and you got to a sort of a no man's land, all with just concrete and barbed wire and all the rest of it. And then there was another, probably, would have been about 400 metres from there to customs in Azerbaijan. And I commented on why on earth was it so long, and they said, well, this used to be the area where they would exchange prisoners with the Soviet Union, as it was at that time. But anyway, this latest one, the prisoners got exchanged by air between Moscow and Kiev, so that was a lot less dramatic than walking the distance and being subject to potential sniper attack. But anyway, it has come under a lot of criticism for the Ukraine side of it, because they did include the Russian who was the leader of the rebels in eastern Ukraine that brought down the Malaysian flight back in 2014 that killed nearly 300 people. So I don't think any of the relatives of those 300 people would be all that keen on his being swapped. But anyway, with a bit of luck, that might ease the tensions between Russia and the Ukraine. It's a very interesting area. I had a lot of quite complex discussions with the Russians, or those few, I might add, that spoke English on the boat that I was on up the Volga. And they really are very concerned about protecting their border areas. They're quite happy to be at peace with them, but not if those border countries are friendly with the likes of the USA. They want to really protect their border, which is incredibly long, and so that was, uppermost in their mind. I actually got a hard time in the border between Georgia and Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is still at war with Armenia over various land and other issues, genocide issues. And we had been warned to say we had not bought anything in Armenia, but the fact that we had been in Armenia was to this young fellow quite an insult to our coming to his country. So we had to explain, and got away with not speaking his language, but said we are tourists. But it was an interesting situation. Azerbaijan was an absolute amazing country for me, because it is a Muslim country, about 85% Muslim, but only 10 to 15% of those Muslims are real practicing Islamic type Muslims. They have been under Russian control for so long that that was all suppressed, and they are a very commercial, modern country. Well, Baku is anyway. Baku was absolutely amazing. Just the joys of having a vast supply of oil means you have a vast supply of money, which means you can contract the best architects in the world to create the most amazing buildings. So that was a real eye-opener at Baku, and I wished I had been there a lot longer, but I had to get to Russia. Anyway, that's the news that's fit to print today. I'll just see if there are any reports from anybody else that you might want to talk about. We've got, Makushla is at Gower, light easterly wind, thin cloud, 3/8, in fact, coverage, 1011, and a couple of boats there, local talents there as well. So good morning to you guys. And good morning, in fact, to everybody that may have started to join us. The trip from the French Polynesia area to the west is well underway by now, or certainly it should be, being September. It's time to think about where you're going at the end of the year. So I'll just pause to see if there's anybody wanting anything. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, standing by. Geez, all peacefully quiet. Yeah, there's not too much noise around this morning, which is good. Oh, David wants that. I've actually got 3 minutes to go. Usually, folks, and this is for those that are new to this, we have a roundup of news and boat reports between 7:15 and 7:30, not 7:27. And then David takes the microphone and answers any questions that have come in from the emails and does the overview, and then goes Arnhem Group to Arnhem Group. With the conditions being pretty grim on the radio, it is quite useful to get those questions in on the email if you have that option, because it is quite difficult and will remain so for the rest of the season. There's some dire predictions for radio propagation, but so far this morning, it's not too bad. Well, certainly not too bad with noise. Maybe that means I won't hear anybody. But anyway, I will pass the microphone to him and we'll see what the weather is like.
Oh, she really sounds cheerful this morning. That's almost a 12-hour time change, body clock-wise. I don't think I could do that. Well, good morning, everyone. And, the last 30 days, those of you that are up in the islands, various island groups, you've seen quite a mix of weather up there. We've had quite a bit of interaction of very, very cold southern ocean air moving up and mixing it with tropical air, and it's clashing, and it really is clashing. They don't really mix because of the different densities. They clash, and they do bring and have been bringing numerous troughs and generally unsettled weather virtually everywhere up there. Now, there's been some nice days too, but for the most part, it's been a bit unsettled. And the main cause of all of this is a buildup, if you will, of pressure, upper level pressure, well above the South Pole. And this in turn is forcing what I would call streamers of Antarctic air northward. And in my opinion, this is actually caused by sunspot activity, or the lack of it, to be quite accurate. This is really a topic for discussion at another time. It's a very interesting topic as to why this is happening and what are the consequences. But for now, we'll stick to the general outlook for weather. So looking at the weather map for today, we'll find a very nice high, more or less south-southeast of Tonga. And then there's that depression in the Tasman. That's about to run over New Zealand. In fact, it's starting now, looking out the window here. And a fairly strong anticyclone over Australia, which is not helping some of the fires that they're having there. By roughly dinner time tomorrow, Tuesday, the depression will be sitting over Gulf Harbor Radio, smack dab over us, I think, with cyclonic winds reaching as far north as 23 south, maybe getting up to 20 south. And that's going to take in New Caledonia, southern Vanuatu, southern bits of Fiji, and southern Tonga as well. It's a rather large area of cyclonic winds. Now, as the ridge from the Australian high, as it pushes its way into the Tasman, we'll start to see trough activity from Vanuatu all the way over to 30 south and 170 west. So if you draw a line between those 2 points, that's roughly where the axis of the trough is going to be. And up in the islands themselves, you'll see a trough that's running from the Solomons. Nothing new there. That's the hot pool area. So we've got our quite active trough running this time to Tuvalu, and it goes on to Samoa, arcs a bit down to the southern Cooks. And looking a little bit long range now, the next depression to affect New Zealand and surrounds, I guess is the best way to say it, should be about next Sunday, which is the 15th of September. So about a week away, and that's about average, isn't it? And speaking of all that sort of stuff, we'll get you up to date with the ENSO cycle, and that is the El Nino and La Nina conditions that we're talking about. As pretty much I've maintained all season, we are officially still, I emphasize the word still, and ENSO neutral, the ENSO neutral state. This simply means, in practical terms, that our weather is average. This, actually, what we've been getting, could be considered average conditions. Now, BOM, that's the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia, and those are the people I actually listen to regarding these little bits of climatology. They reckon that we'll continue neutral right through 2019 and probably through certainly the first part of 2020. And for those wondering, I don't pay any attention to NIWA forecasting. I stick with BOM, and over the various years and seasons, they seem to have it together and are reasonably accurate when it comes to this. Now, I also like to look at the average trade winds that we're getting, and of course, to get a strong La Nina, the trades need to be very strong, and for El Nino, we start to see a bit of a reversal of these winds, and that hasn't happened. Maybe once, twice, three times in this whole season have I seen that sort of thing. But typically we're getting easterlies of some sort, southeasterlies, and that is what's maintaining this neutral situation. So what else do we see in the atmosphere today? Well, the jet stream, that's streaking west to east, pretty much in a straight line. I would say about 25 south, if you were to take a stab at the center of it. And it's running 150 to 200 knots. And so what, you say? A lot of you are saying that, I'll bet. Well, remember, that plays a big role in our weather. The entrance to these jet streaks, these are the smaller areas of very, very high winds, which is what we're getting now. That area is just barely southwest of New Caledonia. And in that area, that is what encourages upflow from the surface. And guess what? That is where our Tasman depression is residing. So that's pretty much a direct relationship that you can see. And that depression is rotating quite nicely on its way to New Zealand. And associated bad weather with that is also coming for New Caledonia. It's getting that far up. So we'll quickly look at the island groups. Tonga should expect anywhere from south to southeast winds about 10 to 15 knots, and that's thanks to the high that's to their south. There is a strong wind warning for the New Potatoes area. That's halfway between Vavau and Samoa, more or less halfway. Tomorrow, though, for most of Tonga, I think we'll see east to northeast winds about 10 to 15. They'll be a little bit higher in some areas, but that's roughly what we're looking at. Nothing major at all. Looking at Fiji, you can see the trough that's just to the north, the one I talked about a minute ago. That's intending to drift south tomorrow, and that's going to be bringing cloud and showers. Winds for the Lau, I think we're looking at easterlies today. For the Koro Sea, I think east-northeast, and then east-southeast near Vatui Ra Pass, and actually northerlies in the Kundabu area. And tomorrow, most areas should be northeasterlies, maybe easterlies near Muscat Cove, but anticipate that trough to start affecting the weather for Fiji a little bit later tomorrow. Now, Vanuatu, a little bit of cloud there, particularly to the north. A lot of rain-bearing cloud. You can see it on satellite imagery. Now, this cloud is from the trough that we talked about, the one that's running from the Solomons eastward. So that cloud is pushing down and affecting northern Vanuatu. And what else could I tell you there? Well, Vanuatu actually is at the edge, the western edge of the high that's just to the south of Tonga. So we could wave goodbye to that high as it's starting to move east. So there'll be quite a variety of winds today for Vanuatu, everything from northeast to northwest, even southeast winds in the northern group. So depending upon where you are, you can expect winds from quite a few different directions. Trough conditions, I think, tomorrow. Southerlies, generally southerlies, are going to be clashing with northerlies. So, unfortunately, that's what it looks like for tomorrow. And New Caledonia, looking there pretty fast, they could expect partly cloudy conditions today. I'd say moderate to fresh winds from the west, about 15 to 20 knots. And I'm talking about our southern lagoon area where most of the cruisers hang out. It looks like west-northwest for Ile de Pan and the outer reef area. And I would expect trough conditions tomorrow as well for New Cal. Showers with westerlies, 20 knots, gusts, maybe getting up to 30. I think we could forget about the Ilos in the southern lagoon for tomorrow. Not a good idea to be in that area, or if you are, find a few spots that'll give you some shelter. It's not going to be very pleasant. And by early Wednesday, it looks like south-southwest winds. Now this morning, the actual reports, looking at the outer reef, winds north-northwest to about 15 knots. And Noumea was calling off north to northwest about 10 to 12. So there you go. That's the short look at our weather today and tomorrow. If you need more detail, give us a call on the Girl Radio here. And off we go. Here's the chief.
And Kuhela, Josh, if you're listening, the New Caledonia people are very relaxed as long as you're in the general movement towards Noumea. You might want to just hang out in Frony or somewhere just inside the pass. There's a lovely little anchorage in there. What was it called?
Port Voisey.
Voisey, yeah. And just wait for those conditions to improve, to go up. Certainly you want the tide with you. All right. Is there anybody with anything? We've had a report in from Port Denarau. This will be of interest to Whistler. Not much wind around. 1010 and 5% thin clouds. So that's at Port Denarau. Thank you, Jasper, too. Okay, any questions from anybody? Please call now. Nothing heard. And is there any relays for anyone that I cannot hear down here? Well, hello, Alan. Whereabouts are you at the moment? Over. Oh, I didn't realise you were going up there. Okay, Ambrym Island. So, what is it like at Ambrym Island at the moment?
Very nice,
Oh, yeah, sounds good. I'm just looking at the satellite picture there that's jumping up and down. Looks like there's a bit of cloud around, but all right, I shall get back in touch with the beloved and let her know Ambrym Island it is. Actually, I was just had my Vanuatu book out because somebody was at a place called Moon Rock at Maywo, and I couldn't remember where Moon Rock or Cave it was. Cave, I guess because we always went to Asanvari. But anyway, Ambrym sounds good. So you're going to be in the Vanuatu chain for a bit, over? Who did you say is joining you? Oh, she's coming next month. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So she'll just come straight to Vanuatu, over? Yeah, I was wondering how she would get there. Boy, we were in Vanuatu when David's mother died in North Carolina, and it was absolutely impossible to get out and get there with the way that the airlines worked. Vanuatu is not exactly on the main trunk line, that's for sure. Mind you, she's used to very strange routes to join Quintessa. All right, thanks, Ellen. We'll keep in touch. Anybody else? Nothing heard. All righty. And we'll say goodbye to the folk. Y2K is going through the Havana Pass this morning. There'll be a bit of a rush when the tide comes in. All right. Thanks for that information from Diego, and we will be back again tomorrow morning. Have a good day, everybody.